And I got Todd Jones.
Good morning. Call to order the January 20th regular Oak Island Planning Board meeting. For the record, all members are here, so we do have a quorum. And now would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay.
Don't you say it?
Next is adjustment and approval of the agenda. Any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
Second? All in favor? It's unanimous. Next is approval of the minutes. Does anybody have any edits to the minutes?
I've got a couple of small edits.
Okay, Lee?
On page 5, near the top, number 6, Williamson negotiations. It says, who has Oak Island vision and remit to negotiate? And I didn't understand that.
That's just taken from the document that was provided by Mr. Callahan, so I didn't edit his document.
Ah, okay.
Bob?
Lee, I could respond to what I had meant when I wrote that. Again, it was just a list. It wasn't really a lot of a description. But the question there was, we're calling it the Williamson tract because that's a familiar name. So it's not really the Williamson anything. It's that piece of land. And then the question is when you go to negotiate conditional zoning, you have to negotiate from some perspective, from some vision that you have. Let's say you wanted nothing but, 25 high rises there, that's one vision. Another vision would be just farmland. That's a different, so what's the vision for that piece of land? And who stands up and does all the negotiating? Because there's give and take in every negotiation, and who does the giving and who does the taking from the town's perspective in line with whatever vision we have for the land. That's what that meant.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize that it just been lifted by the secretary and,
Yeah, remit is a term you don't see often used in colloquial, and I think it's more of actually, I hear it more in British European conversations than I do here, but yeah. Okay, what else?
That's a
Lee?
little big word.
Is it?
It's a little big word.
So, and I think you spent some time in London, didn't you?
Tim reprimanded me.
He's using little big words.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the minutes from the December meeting as presented?
Oh, motion approved.
Bob, second. Michael? All in favor? It is unanimous. Okay. Next is our public comment period. I think we do have one person who'd like to come up and speak a word to us.
Thank you. My name is Pamela Johnson. I serve on the Environmental Advisory Committee. We meet right before you meet. And Lee Butson was in our meeting and suggested that our committee have representation at your meetings and hopefully facilitate communication between the two, see how we can assist you in any way as we look at the environmental concerns of the island and collaborate with you. So right now, Maureen, who could not be here today, and I are the two that you'll probably see most often at your meetings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. We appreciate the work that you guys do, and we're always glad to have you come to the meetings, and as things come up that we can collaborate on, we look forward to doing that. I know we very much appreciated the input that we got from the Environmental Advisory Board when we were going through our tree ordinance. And there are some other environmental issues out there with the UDO, and so I'm sure that will be helpful. Thank you again. Okay. We have no old business.
Chairman, I'm sorry, I think
sorry.
Mr. Larkin indicated he wanted to speak as well. No, okay. Oh, okay, apologize.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Lisa. So we have one item of new business on Brunswick County's comprehensive land use plan, the portion of it that's the comprehensive transportation plan for Brunswick County, to get an update on that and see how we can facilitate that going forward and provide input. So, Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the beginning of last year, Jake Vargas presented the start of the study for the Brunswick County Comprehensive Transportation Plan to the Planning Board. Today, I'll provide an update on where we are in the CTP process and what you can expect from the study in the following months. I've been participating in the meetings to become aware, of the latest on CTP. Brunswick County, its municipalities, the Cape Fear Rural Planning Organization, GSATS, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and the DOT have created a steering committee to start the Brunswick County CTP. And it's a 25 to 30-year long range multimodal transportation plan that will assess Brunswick County's existing and future transportation needs, including roadways, bicycle, pedestrian, transit, and rail facilities and services. The goals of a CTP are to assist with identifying transportation deficiencies, setting short and long-term transportation priorities, establishing a relationship between local and regional expectations, and to reinforce and support other local and regional planning and funding initiatives. There's a steering committee of local members from each adopting agency, as well as other local representatives that have been meeting since the beginning of last year, twice a month, to create this plan. Once the study is in draft format for adoption in the next few months, the Planning Board will be asked to review the CTP and then adopt for the town of Oak Island. The core content document of the CTP, which consists of multimodal maps, a project list, and project sheets, is being reviewed by the steering committee, internal DOT transportation planning division staff, and management. Once the review process is complete, the CTP will be going to the public for public input. The CTP steering committee will host both in-person public involvement sessions in the county as well as virtual. Once public involvement sessions are completed, the steering committee will meet one more time to incorporate the feedback from locals. After that, the Planning Board will have a chance to review the draft CTP prior to going into adoptions. I request the Planning Board review the CTP, and if you have any comments, please provide those to me by January 27th, 1 week from today. If you have any comments, you may also submit them to Nazia Sarder or Kelly Jones at DOT, and I'll provide you with their contact information at the end of the presentation. There's a little additional information. The last time Jake Vargas presented to you, he informed you that there was a survey that would be available from March of 2021 through June 2021 for the CTP. We gathered a total of 6,969 virtual and physical surveys and a total of 8,387 comments from locals. This is the most feedback the Transportation Planning Division at DOT has gathered for a single county CTP. Here's the contact information for the steering committee leads. As I mentioned in the previous slide, if you review the materials and wish to provide comments, reach out to Nazia and Kelly at the DOT. And you're also welcome to contact myself or Patrick Flanagan from the COG. Thank you. And you should have received the presentation in your packets, and I would just ask for you to start by looking at the projects that are proposed for the island. There's several that they're looking at, and if you have any suggestions, let me know. And then there's a whole lot of projects there, so it's something you, if you can, like for you to devote some time to. And 211, several other projects around the region in Myrtle Beach and all over the area. And I started delving into it myself, and it's definitely something I need to spend some more time on. But I just ask for you to take a look, and if you have any suggestions or changes to routes or anything, just let me know, or one of the contacts up there.
Yeah, Mark, I went through the project scope and the other documents, and of course did a PDF of just the things that seemed to me that apply to Oak Island. And I don't know if you have those, or if you could pull those up, and maybe we could take a quick glance through that and get people's reaction to it.
I did, I got maps here that we can look at. If it's okay, I was gonna start with the Oak Island one,
Yeah.
since that should be our priority, I believe. And we can also look at some of the other ones then. As you can see, they're proposing several different things on the islands. Bicycle and pedestrian pass, bicycle pass, and great deal of them, throughout large part of the island. Which I think their plan looks pretty good, they cover a whole lot of area, and if we could get some grant money to do those projects, it would be awesome.
Yeah, most of, it looks like they've tried to compile everything from previous plans. I know we had the bicycle and pedestrian plan that was done with a grant through DOT, and spent about a year on that, got a lot of good public input. And it looks like most of what was in that plan has reappeared here. And I guess it's number 22 on here. It takes in Fish Factory Road. That was something that Mark Martin brought up was missing on the 211 plan that council looked at this month. But this certainly incorporates it in here. And
the only thing I really saw that I thought they should maybe add is for number 21, right at the edge of the water, somehow connecting it up, just a point up on 133, because it just goes out there.
right, and I don't know
Ends.
that going around the airport area and all that in there, I don't know that that's
Yeah, we might not want bicycles on the
feasible.
tarmac, but
No.
if there's some way to,
No.
not right at the airport,
Yeah,
they could connect it.
I think they were trying, I think what they were trying to accomplish more so there was to be able to, come down the preserve, entrance in the preserve, and then just be able to come under the bridge and come back around and connect to South Harbor like that. But
Yeah,
that's not exactly what's showing there. You might want to pull up the details on the that 2006 bicycle plan and see what's on there, because I'm sure that's where that came from.
okay, yeah, I'll compare and contrast.
Compare that and see what it looks like. Because sometimes I know they try to transfer things from one map scenario to another. It doesn't always come out the way you'd like for it to accurately.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a question. I noticed the green area is obviously bicycle and pedestrian traffic. So one could assume then that crosswalks and things would appropriately be put in during that path area, the green area.
If these projects came into fruition, that's something they would definitely try to do, you know, funding permitted.
Well, I think we have an issue now with not having some designated cross areas along East Oak Island Drive.
Well, and I can tell you that that was a significant part of the discussion at council retreat yesterday. And one of the three overarching priorities that they came up with was, I think they termed it public safety and accessibility. And the public safety part that they focused on was pedestrian safety. And crosswalks were uppermost in the discussion for particularly East Oak Island Drive and Beach Drive. And people have been asking
Yes.
for crosswalks on those two roads for years and years. Of course, I'm sure it will, because they are DOT-maintained roads. DOT has its standards and what have you, but I think it's a real push to get those studies done and see what we can and cannot do according to that. I know there's something, Lisa, you might be able to help me on this. I want to say there was some part of the discussion yesterday about if you're going to do a crosswalk, you have to have some kind of sidewalk on both sides.
Yes, ma'am. The DOT doesn't want to allow a crosswalk where there's nowhere to walk on when you get there.
Well, and we're so used to walking on the street, so it's not like, anyway, and maybe there's some way of negotiating through that, but we'd at least have to have some sidewalk in the blocks on either side where we're crossing over. But there certainly is a significant push on the part of council for moving forward with that.
Good.
Can we jump to a different map?
I had just one comment. I was wondering if maybe we should promote pedestrians and people on bicycles to use Yacht Drive rather than East Oak Island Drive. And if we put in a bicycle path, then that's inviting people to do so. Although I know would be a dedicated path there, but it just seems like it would make more sense to encourage them to use the Yacht Drive area where there's not as much traffic. And I know, it has come up at council, and they've talked about maybe reducing the speed limit. That came up a while ago, and then
We've been
things have
back and
kind of
forth on
changed
that.
around.
Yeah, we've been back.
But I do know that a lot of pedestrians use Yacht Drive, people on bicycles, and it just seems like the right place for that. Since we have so much vehicle traffic on East Oak Island Drive, perhaps that could be, the area for vehicles, and then we could promote people on bicycles and pedestrians to use Yacht Drive.
I think that's a great idea, because there's,
Yeah.
no matter what we could do, there's gonna be a ton of traffic on East Oak Island Drive.
Right.
Cars especially, and if we can get the bikes, on Yacht Drive, it'd be safer for everybody.
It would be, and Yacht Drive is so nice for that purpose. I like to take my daughter back there to ride her bike, and it has kind of become, over the years, people are using Yacht Drive to get to the new bridge, and just seems like maybe we could promote a different type use other than a second main thoroughfare through the island.
Anita, you had some?
I do. My counter to that would be that for those of us who would like to ride our bikes to get groceries and do business, then that limits us because, the island's small enough, you can bike anywhere you want to go.
Right, yeah, you can, but it just seems like if we put in a bike path, we're inviting them to use it for
Right.
that, of course. And we do have a lot of, back roads and, the middle road that it's easy to use to get to those areas.
But if you don't put one in on Oak Island Drive, then safety is a concern for people who are going to say, I'm still going to ride my bike to get my groceries or do my business.
Well, and you can still do that. You're talking about making that sort of the main
Right, make,
It's not that you couldn't ride your bike on Oak Island
Right,
Drive.
but
I
still-
mean, you could.
But
But
that
it
there
just
wouldn't be a
seems-
bike path on Oak Island Drive is what I'm hearing you saying.
right,
Right, and so by not having a bike lane on Oak Island Drive, then that decreases safety for those people who would like to ride their bike to
And,
do business.
and I don't know that, because it really doesn't show it here, I'm not sure that and I don't remember, and Mark, that would be something again for you to look at that detail but what I recall from the 2006 plan is it wasn't a bike lane on the street, but it was a separate dedicated, trying to incorporate pedestrian and bikes in the right-of-way outside of, to get all of it keep all of it off the road. I know people have talked about bike lanes, but, and we've got them on Beach Drive, but that wouldn't be the scenario there. Of course, a lot of times, quite frankly, when I go down Yacht Drive, it's like the whole street is a bike lane.
Yeah.
Golf carts and bikes.
golf
and
carts.
people are
Right.
really using it. yeah.
And the town has looked at, and I think still has in the last couple of years, looked at what the challenges are on yacht to putting in anything that wouldn't be something that would be separate. I mean, there's just, the right of way's not as large. I mean, there are all kinds of doesn't mean you can't do it or don't try, but it's gonna be very difficult to get something separate or extra from just the road itself in that area.
Would they widen the sidewalk or what, or go across the road or what were they?
That's what I'm saying. Whatever DOT has done on this or whatever's in the plan, that should show like a cross-section, and we just take a look and see what they're proposing. But it would have been, coulda, woulda, shoulda. It would have been preferable if those kind of things could have been put in 40 years ago, before everybody, before so much of it was built out and people had different things going on, driveways, one thing and another, and mailbox issues and all that. But those of you who were around when we did the sidewalks that we do have on Oak Island Drive probably remember what an uproar there was in the community about putting sidewalk there. And I think we used accommodations tax money. Why are you spending money on this and all this other kind of stuff? And within a couple of years, you couldn't have taken it away from them, But so that's just how that back and forth has gone over the years.
Cameron, do you remember, was there a time when we also had money available for sidewalks on Yacht Drive, but didn't
We
do
did,
that?
we did.
I didn't know if that was,
There was a, because, I think there was some kind of DOT program, and the town staff had done the preliminary work to get a grant to do some section of it, I think probably from Middleton, I can't remember how far down. And the majority of the council at that time just said, no, we're not interested.
Well, Yacht Drive was a dirt road for a long time. So
It was a dirt road when I moved down here,
Yeah.
or gravel, yeah. They didn't pave it until 96-ish, somewhere
It was
in
a
there.
while.
Yeah. I mean, the Elizabeth Drive and the park, I think it was paved up to Dutchman Creek.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so, and, the town of Long Beach went into a multi-year paving program to try and get the roads paved, because that was one of the things that DOT had told us was keeping the second bridge from getting elevated on the STIP. Because you're not gonna build a bridge to a bunch of dirt roads. So, yeah, it's been an interesting history.
Then there was the butterflies.
Okay. Any other comments on this map?
I
Yeah.
could, Madam Chair, Mark, when I reviewed this during the week, I searched around and I couldn't find, do they have a prioritization of these or any dates assigned?
No.
No, it's just like a a fantasy wish list, basically. They told me in the meeting, they look at what is right now and what is the workforce gonna look like 30 years from now, and this is the attempt to try to figure out how to deal with the increase in traffic from the more jobs they anticipate and more traveling, that this plan would address those needs, you know, to cut back on congestion. But when the time comes for council to adopt this, if council adopts it, which most likely they will, it'll ease us, make it easier for us to get grants, because we can present this and say, look, you know, this is part of the countywide transportation plan, and, you know, it's been reviewed by the public, the planning board, council, plus all the other jurisdictions, you know, the county and all these other organizations.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get grant money unless you've got something in the plan somewhere that you've adopted in order, that's one of the purposes of doing all that. I mean, whether it's our, you know, Parks and Rec master plan, all those kinds of things, keeping that current and updated is what is the first thing that agencies that have grant money available look towards to see if, okay, you know, you're not just throwing something out there that's had public input, et cetera, all that kind of stuff, because it is public money.
211's already being looked at. It looks like they're definitely gonna be moving forward, you know, with work on 211.
Well, that first part of it is, but then there's the part from, I mean, from Midway into Southport is, you know, the chunk they're biting off now. It'll take them, what is it, 6 years or something, I think they said. The part from Midway to Sunset Harbor Road is another section, and then from Sunset Harbor Road out to 17 is a third section. So the whole entire from 17 to Southport is broken up into 3 parts. Those other 2 parts, while they're on the list, on the master, they're not on the funding list. One of them is, I think one of those parts is on the funding list, but it's not got any money put into it. That's that STI. The State Transportation Improvement Plan is the plan that has the project list and the priorities and monies allocated and what year that's going to happen, and that's a 10-year plan. Now, the Department of Transportation, the board can make amendments to that plan occasionally, and I wonder if perhaps because in anticipation too, hopefully, of if we ever get any infrastructure money from on a federal level, that has some things in place to be able, because those are usually, you got something shovel ready, you've at least got it designed, what have you. But you know, in terms of the major artery transportation issues, to me, now that we have the second bridge, and it's on the list, but there's no priorities, it's not in the STIP, and I think it's broken down, I think Midway Road is broken down into at least 2 pieces, maybe 3. So that's the, what is 906 is the number, and 61 is, you know, is showing on this map, and that continues up, of course, you know, like I said, with the second bridge, with the I-140 around Wilmington, so many of our residents go to Wilmington, and a lot of it's medical related. But I hear time after time safety concerns about Midway Road. And there's some bridges that have to be redone with that, just like they're having to redo one of the bridges for 211. But to 4-lane Midway Road, we were asking for 4-lane Midway Road 30 years ago. And it's still not any further up the chain than it was then. And if there was one thing that I would like to see emphasized from whatever, whoever's, all the entities that are planning this to get this in the plan, if there's any prioritization at some point of these, that is the one thing that I would put at the top of the list, is improving Midway Road.
Best way, if the entire board agrees with that, is to get attention on that, is for if each board member is willing to email, you know, one of the contacts, I would encourage everybody to email the same one saying, you know, planning board member for Town of Oak Island, and, you know, I feel that this project should be a priority. Rather than, I mean, I could send an email, but I'm one person, you know, the more voices, the better. And that, you know, just let them know. Maybe if they get, you know, 8 emails or whatever, then they'll be like, wow, you know, maybe this is a priority. And it'll also help, you know, if you say a planning board member. But I think overall the CTP is, you know, it's a great tool. It's going to hopefully make things more proactive, you know, rather than, you know, trying to put out fires, you know, down the road where there's way too much traffic for a road, that hopefully they'll have some of those roads widened before there is way too much traffic on those roads.
Well, yeah, and there's, in the project design documents that I tried to piece off, and Midway was one of the things that I put in that, because I think it does impact so much. I mean, they've got traffic counts and you know, projections and all that thing. I mean, it's already a large part of the time bumping up on what it's designed to safely. You know, they've got the different A, B, C, D, E, Fs or whatever. And yeah, the road's still open and people still travel it.
I've sat through several lights, you know, to try to, if you go at the wrong time on Midway and, you know, that area where there's just so much traffic that you've got to sit through several lights in order to eventually get yourself through the light.
Yeah, but it's dangerous travel. And there have been an awful lot of accidents on that road over the years. Anybody else see anything on the list or in anything you've looked at or on the map that you want to bring to Mark's attention?
Well, perhaps you could send us an email with the person that we're supposed to contact.
That's in this.
It's in there?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's in.
Yeah, there's several. There's nausea.
And then what you'd like us to say?
I, Joe Smith, am a planning board member for the town of Oak Island. I'm very concerned about traffic on Midway. I think this should be a top priority as far as the projects, you know, that in the CTP list. And I encourage you to place this project at the top of the list for safety reasons because of the huge amount of traffic there and the accidents that have, you know, caused a lot of injury and grief to families in the area.
There's your Midway one. But and whatever, you know, you could do something like that for any, it doesn't have to be just one thing. If, you know, you want to see us have bike paths on Yacht Drive, then, but of course, that's not a DOT road, but that would enable us to qualify for grant funding that occasionally the DOT does provide for non-DOT roads because it connects back into, and that's one of the things too, the connectivity to other DOT roads is part of what they're looking at in those plans as well, if there's the potential there for that.
And with the Williamson track, you know, over 3,000 acres, next month we're probably gonna be reviewing their bubble plan, and that's just gonna be way more cars, you know, construction vehicles at first, and then, you know, residential vehicles once homes are built there and businesses are located there. So that's only gonna make Midway and, you know, the surrounding streets even more congested.
And that's gonna dump more people on the beach over here. The easier you make it for them to get here, the more we're gonna be.
I know.
Well,
Look at
and
40, when 40 came
and
into
I-
Wilmington from Raleigh.
and I know I've heard some, and of course, St. James has got their little parking lot now, which is helpful. And I suggested for many years that they have some kind of shuttle kind of thing. I think there's some discussion about doing some shuttles from the Williamson track. And of course, that was one of the things that was on our list to, council has seen. But in any event, any other comments about any of this transportation?
Tara, do you want me to pull up any of the other maps? Do we want to look at any of the other ones?
What I was, like I said, I don't want to look at the whole thing.
I could just kind of we can look at them briefly, and if we don't need to want to discuss anything on that one, move on to the next one. We could just kind of
Is there,
take a
is
quick
there any
look.
other, is there any other
Page
map
2,
here that shows, yeah, that's the Oak Island one in particular, but it shows
They're not showing any
like
plans.
Midway and some of those other,
Sunset Harbor.
yeah, okay, not that one, come on down.
You see
Yeah,
where they're
that's just
gonna,
kind of existing.
you see where they're gonna bypass, and I heard about this about 15 years ago when I started working down there. Shallotte 17 that goes through Shallotte now where they built the Chick-fil-A. That is gonna be like Main Street at Myrtle Beach with 31 bypassing everything.
it.
So that I have heard, because remember, used to, everything went through Shallotte.
Because they're still wanting to get traffic along 17, more through traffic without the,
They're gonna come off of that loop and keep going all the way down to,
yeah.
Want me to move on?
Yeah, let's go to the next one, Mark.
it's a big plan.
Yeah, now this one's getting, okay, so this is let's see, they don't even have. Yeah, so I mean, they're showing, you know, the reds here are talking about congestion, mobility, adding lanes, and I guess it's 11 and 10 up in there. I mean, that's Midway.
See, right there, 87 crosses over to number 29, that little red dotted line
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
So they're gonna connect. There's gonna be so many people on this island one day. We'll be dead though.
Well,
There's a whole lot of red, like,
I mean, there's a lot of red down in the southeast, in the
around there, and then there's like,
southwestern part of the county, I guess. But yeah, that's a good point that, and, you know, all the little black things are all, see, but see, there's a lot of bridge work that's gonna have to be done in there, to get Midway where it needs to be.
Harbor into that new bridge road. That's gonna that over here too.
Well, you know, the original, I heard you, Tim, the original, rather than going up to Midway, one of the 4 options of where to go from, well, one was to go off the end of the island and connect off that way.
The Sunset, yeah.
The other one was once you cross the bridge that we have now, you'd still go to the left and wind up to connect into Sunset Harbor or 211, somewhere back up.
And there's no wetlands from we used to ride horses back there. That's solid ground too. It'd be easy for somebody to cut a road.
No, but that
Can we
that
strike
all
this?
went through the process it went through, and we've got what we've got, so,
But the property value would go out the roof then.
yeah, that's, anyway. I mean, they always look at alternative routes when they're doing that. Okay, Mark,
next one?
It's all
Yeah,
blank
what's the
right
next
here.
one?
Nothing. Yes, it
other
is.
way. Down, yeah. Yeah, let's talk about the railroad stuff. Yeah, keep going. Let's see what this is gonna. So yeah, they've got some things for, and I guess that would come off the plan that was, the council looked at last time. Yeah, that's kind of got all the bicycle, pedestrian stuff all in one spot. So it does connect out to 211 and
Doesn't that go all the way?
points beyond.
No, that's just a Caswell.
All right, what's next, Mark? Okay, so that's where we were before.
Yep.
Okay. And then that's got inserts for Boiling Springs and Southport. And it's probably a couple other down below. Okay, well,
Oh, I think there might be one more. Let me see.
yeah. I think probably Ocean Isle maybe, and, yeah. Right, Charlotte, there's a Charlotte, Sunset Beach, Ocean Isle.
Yep, that's the last one.
Yeah, I know Ocean Isle is in the, is actually in the funding document. They've gotten up to that for their, for a bike lane on their, what's their beach drive. Okay. Anybody have anything else on the transportation plan? Okay. Well, I would encourage you then to take these email addresses that are in our packet and feel strongly about.
There's a link on there too of how to get to the CTP stuff if you want, anybody wants to access it.
Yeah, and so that's, you said the 27th, so that's next Thursday, so we got a week. I want to send off some emails. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, next on the agenda is board member reports. I'll start with you, Michael. Anything? Nita?
Good, thank you.
Lee?
I got a couple of small things,
Okay.
if I can find it here. The first one, I hope you'll consider to be a nit, and maybe we can give it to staff. Looking at what we got, anyway, Chapter 14 of the code, Article 1, Section 14.1, references made to the estuarian, well, I can never pronounce that, Estuarian Stabilization Committee. Well, we don't have that anymore, so that needs to be changed, because the committee no longer exists, and its functions were assumed by the Environmental Advisory Committee, so.
Lisa, how does that work when we change committee names, but we haven't updated where they are in the code?
Excuse me, chapter 14, I don't think that would really have to come through the planning board, but I will certainly look at that and recommend any changes that we need to do to make that fit what we currently have. I'd be happy to do that.
Good, so. Second item, and this, I hope it doesn't stir up any, whatever. In the UDO, Section 216, owners are required to get a permit to install, modify, or repair their driveway. In other words, if you want to spread a little gravel, if you have a gravel drive, you need to have a permit to do it. I've already done it. I'm a scofflaw on that. What I recommend is that the UDO be changed just slightly to drop the repair part of it, because if you're just putting down some gravel, and I recommend changes in the wording here, that the wording right now is no person shall construct, reconstruct, or repair any driveway within the town without first obtaining from the UDO administrator a zoning permit to do so. Such person shall construct, reconstruct, and repair such driveway under the supervision of the UDO administrator and in accordance with the town specifications. And I'd like to change that to a zoning permit is required from the UDO administrator to construct or reconstruct any driveway within the town. No permit is required for minor repairs which do not change the footprint of the driveway or otherwise increase the impervious surface of the lot. So in other words,
Mr. Edwards, would you like to speak to that as to why we have what we have and
Unfortunately, you know, the rule's in there for a reason, and it's, you know, and I've seen it happen more than once where people, they get the little gravel in and they expand it, and they didn't intentionally mean to expand it, but it's hard to monitor, and then we get phone calls from adjoining property owners, and it's more of a proactive type thing to require the permit. That way we can monitor the work that's going on it's a town right away majority of the time where the work's going on as well. So we have to be sure that they're compliant with the ordinance. If it's, and on the ocean front, we've got CAMA that's also there, and it may require a maintenance and repair permit from CAMA, so we've got to be able to review it. And if we have that as a blanket policy that no permits required for, like you said, same footprint and all that, then we would, people would just go out there and they would do the CAMA. And they do it anyway. When we catch them, we make them get permits. And a lot of times it is maintenance and repair. Sometimes we've had to go out there and make them remove it. It's just a monitoring tool to be sure that, that they are maintaining the driveway as it's proposed. But the ordinance is very clear that any work done on the driveway does require a permit, and it's there to help be sure that the codes are maintained.
Well, you pretty much admitted that some people do not get a permit to throw down some gravel.
Well, I've got
said you did.
3 cases right.
Just said you did.
Four now.
Yeah, we got 4.
I got 4. I've got 3 cases where there's a builder down here that's going around, and he's unfortunately he's done some major renovations and no permits for building and electrical and plumbing, and so we it's, you can't catch all the speeders out there, but every now and then you do get one, and of course licensing boards involved on these cases, so it does occur. I mean, just because the rule's written, you got to get a permit. I haven't seen a stoplight yet that stops a car, so.
Well, and what comes to my mind as y'all have been talking about this now is one of the things that we have been trying to do, and that Jake was certainly focused on, and Mark, please be as well, and Steve, I know you have too, is to put things in place so that, if you have something like this, well, what's minor? And so where you can, put something in place so that, you're not getting into a situation where you've got to interpret what's been done. It's clear, this is what you do, and then you deal with that at the permitting level.
Yeah, what's minor to Mr. Lee might
Might be major to somebody else. And again, to have something in place for, no, you can't, you don't see everything that's going on all the time on weekends and everything else, but you do get complaints, and so there has to be an objective, fair to, once everybody fits rule to be able to go by and comply with. So yeah, to me, it accomplishes that purpose that we've been trying to continually incorporate in any amendments that we have, that takes out the interpretation guesswork for staff. And, not everybody knows that you need to have a permit to do something like that.
That's right.
And I'm sure that was you when you.
Yeah.
But, and so maybe, just by having this discussion, some people will learn something like that they didn't know about the codes. And a lot of times, until, a lot of times people learn the hard way. They don't learn about it until somebody's complaining they've done something that's against code. They didn't realize that it was innocent.
It's another tool for Steve to use.
But it is a good tool for staff, I think.
A good tool for what?
For staff.
For staff.
Oh, for staff. Well, I think as a general rule, if you're going to pass rules, they should be obeyed. And this seems like a prime rule that if you, just for that one thing, repairs, that it's, as you pointed out, it's very hard to enforce. For the rest of it, it's not hard to enforce,
Well,
and
once-
it's for a very good reason. But
Once we do get a.
make rules, obey them.
Yeah, well, and once we get a complaint, or if we see the work going on, I just issued a stop work order this morning to a gentleman he's on a state road, it's a commercial project, and didn't get permits, and of course, he was wanting to dance around the subject, and I said, let's quit dancing and get to the topic here, and I said, I'm here to help you, and
Yeah, I've heard that before. I'm from the government, I'm here to help.
The government, I'm here to help.
It's I'm from
you
the
got the- you got
IRS and I'm here to help.
But no, I am really here to help somebody get to where they need to be. Sometimes they don't like my answers or what the rules are, but there's process to be able to change those as well, like you're bringing up this thing here. But it does occur, people do things without permits. They look for forgiveness sometimes, and a lot of people are learning now that forgiveness is expensive. And unfortunately, it's the homeowner in the end that suffers a lot when somebody doesn't do something that follows the rules. Another gentleman, he wants to add on to his house, and while he's talking to me, he told me about his shed in his backyard, and I'm looking at his permits, and I'm like, you don't have a permit for your shed, and the contractor failed to get the permit, and I said, well, we can't work on any other zoning permits can be issued until we bring this this violation into compliance. And fortunately, it can be brought into compliance. So, and then I gave him the path to be able to bring it into compliance, and he's going to submit something today on it. So, we do work with people that don't know the rules, that depend on contractors to do their jobs, because 9 times out of 10, a homeowner is hiring somebody that they're entrusting to do the work. And it's like I told this gentleman, I said, trust and verify. Trust that they say they're going to do what they're going to do, but verify. Call us and make sure permits are required or not required. And, before you write on that first check, be sure they've got their permit and be sure they had their final inspections for that last check.
Steve, let me ask you this. For something like, because we certainly have seen an increase in, well, concrete's a little more obvious, but seen a lot of increase in gravel driveways. And I know that over time, they sort of deteriorate and you want to put more gravel in there. But do the places that a homeowner would hire to put more gravel on their gravel driveway as a sort of repair or update or maintenance kind of thing, do they realize that we require a permit for that? How do you put that word out? I mean,
I do, and when I see the, it's like you said, the landscaping contractors, most of them, they get a job, they run out there and they do it. They know, most of them know what the rules are, but they just hope they don't get caught. But as I see them doing it, I'll stop, I'll talk with them and explain that this requires a permit. And of course, with today's technology, it's easy to go back and look at topography photos where you can see what was done. Google Maps has been, a great tool for us to utilize when people say, well, there was no trees here before. And of course, then we pull up a 2020 picture from Google Maps and say, well, I'm going to have to disagree with you. But I talk to them as I see them and tell them that permits are required. A lot of times, if they're resurfacing gravel in their yard, for a parking pad and not the driveway itself, the approach coming off of the road to the property, that's where we're more focused on is that part of the driveway permit.
because that fits into the bigger
Right.
stormwater issue and everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason you're seeing a lot more people using the stone driveways is because of the maximum 45% BUA ordinance that the council put in place. And now they're looking at ways to get their development they need and to maintain that 45% BUA. And that's something that I talked to a DEQ guy, and he says that we probably need to revisit that and maybe look at a 36% BUA.
Well, we had a 30 for a long time.
Well, the 30 was a threshold as to when we
When you
required
do,
a design professional to do the work.
But I felt like that what was adopted, of course, I wasn't on planning board at the time, wasn't participating in those discussions. I want to say there was at least one planning board member who thought it should be 35, and I agreed with him.
Yeah, and I was looking, because I wrote that text amendment, and I was looking at what the average development was. And but now we need to maybe look at what is best for the environment. I see her nodding her head over there, because we're supposed to be stewards here and protecting the environment.
Well, of course, you certainly recall how long it took us to get anything.
Oh, yeah, no, I got kicked
place.
down a couple of times, and I think,
And it's been in the land use plan for the last 15 years,
yeah.
or longer, actually.
I tried to put some park and rec, well, it's town property in the conservation easement, and of course, Park and Rec
And
didn't like that.
And I would like to go back and revisit that, quite frankly, at some point.
Yeah, it's all wetlands, I mean,
Yeah.
we should put it.
But yeah, my comments on the 45% were that was, yes, at least we've got something, as everybody said, but,
Well, it was a
and the
struggle with
environment, the trees and everything else, when you start thinking about people, a lot of people now are upgrading, renovating existing smaller homes, older homes. When they start pulling those out and tearing them out, that's going to just exacerbate the whole impervious surface issue, I think. And if you look at, that average, even plus the newer averages, if you average them all together, you're going to get somewhere in that 35% range.
Our new stormwater administrator, Rick Patterson, he's looking at this, and he's also looking at the approach in the right-of-way, and including that in the BUA areas. Right now, it's just the BUA is what's on the private property, not in the town right-of-way.
Right, and we haven't been looking at what the roadway looks like.
He's got some things coming up that he'll be in front of y'all for.
Well, I will be happy to see it. Bring it on.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks,
A lot of
Steve.
work.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Lee.
But thank you for bringing that up, Lee. Good discussion.
I'll put my shovel away.
Shovel and rake.
Dress too.
Natasha, do you have anything?
I don't have anything.
Tim, you got anything? Bob?
Nothing, thank you.
Mark, you want me to say anything about the, what council got from us and what they've done with it, or you want me to? I'd be happy to.
You can go ahead.
Okay. As y'all recall, we did go through the process in December and come up with a list of priorities that we'd like for council to prioritize and follow up with and get back to us on. That was, Lisa did email, I finished up, thank you, Bob, for sending me, what you had. And I put together that, added what we had added to your document, and put some two-pager together, the one page with all the goals from land use plan and all that stuff, and then a one-pager that put everything from October and December, actually from September and December, in that report, and bulleted it, didn't number, took out the numbers, all of that. And I did, during public comments at council's January meeting, give them greetings from the planning board and explain to them what we had done, and that they would be getting those lists, and hoping that they might have a chance to look at it, either at their retreat or sometime soon, and get some feedback from it, and how, we were looking forward to working with them to move us forward. And so they have that information. There were some things on the list that are in some of the broader priorities that the council went through in their retreat yesterday. And I think it was John Bach who had in his priorities about working with the planning board on updating the UDO. And so I'm sure we'll hear something from that in the not too distant future. So again, I appreciate everything that you guys do and all your input, and thank you. Okay, Mark, you get staff report?
Sure. We touched on the Williamson tract, that's in the pike, and there might not be a shovel in the dirt over there till 2-3 years from now, but they've got the bubble plan, and, they're wanting to, definitely get things in motion over there. So that's 3,500 acres, a big project in the Pike, and staff were reviewing a final plat for Pine Forest. So they're still working over there. They've got, some lots being built, and they're going to be soon having more houses built over there. And so we're definitely going to be busy, and, the town's going to be growing, and we're going to have, stuff coming before the planning board, in the Pike, in the near future.
Yeah, I certainly expect to see several things in February. And what's our February meeting date? Is that regular third?
17th? Yes, the 17th.
17th, yeah. Now, Lee, you were going to be out of town on the 17th, right? Okay. Also, Mark, the conditional zoning that we sent before council, they're going to take another month to look at it, I think, to make sure that they understand it and if there are any other amendments or what have you. But the board was complimented on all the length of time we spent on it, the guardrails we put in place and whatnot. So council does appreciate y'all's work. And the request for an amendment related to the sheds and front yards will be coming back to us again will that be in February, Mark?
Yeah, it should be in February. Staff's got to work on that a little more.
Yeah. I know one of the things that, one of the additional pieces of information that Mr. Larkin had brought to the council that will be coming back to us was the ordinance that Brunswick County has. Apparently Brunswick County has a view shed ordinance and along the waterway, and so they, in that ordinance, allow sheds in what we would consider the front yard to keep them from being part of the waterway view. But I'm sure we'll get copies of that. But what occurs to me is a lot of the development on the waterway, take St. James for instance, they have homeowner association regulations that trump whatever the county may or may not allow. And so, Mark, I would like for you to add to your list of things to do when this comes back to us. If you would contact the county and try to get some idea of how many and where they have actually issued permits that would go in on the other side of the waterway, on those waterway properties. So under that ordinance, how long has that ordinance been there? And have they actually issued any permits under that view shed, or are most of the properties that would be in the county, are those waterway development areas governed by homeowners associations rather than the county?
Sure.
I think that would be some good data for us to have.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Anybody have anything else? If there's nothing else, then do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor? All right. Thank y'all very much.
Okay.